Hello, dear colleagues. Nice to meet you once again. My name is Konstantin Koshkin. I'm associate professor in Sechenov University in Digital Health Institute, and we continue our lectures about IT technologies and e-health. And today it will be part 4, provision of medical care using telemedicine and telemedical technologies. We will cover general terms of telemedicine, how it is provided, what do we mean under this term, and how it could be done. And in major cases, it will be related to the examples regarding Internet of Things and technical implementation of these solutions. I will start from the top, and I will say a few words about what do we mean under digital health in general. It's a system of decisions, solutions, and technologies which is aimed to increase availability of medical care, ensure efficient and optimal patient routing, and interactions between patients and doctors, and to ensure high quality of medical services being provided to the patients. And is it complete? Is everything we can done has been done, and something like that. And digital health play a key role in achieving universal health coverage by providing rational and efficient models for delivering quality care and providing equivalent access to the healthcare services. It provides solutions for citizens to control their own health and well-being. It provides mechanism for planning of medical services being delivered. It improves operational efficiency and responsiveness of the health system as a whole. It facilitates transition of people care providing by medical organizations, technology usage, and it ensures that our health system will meet goals of sustainable development in general for the whole society. And how it could be done. Digital health, with other words, it's could be called digital medicine. It's a way of planning and managing healthcare, organizing and providing medical care, ensuring prevention and promotion of healthy lifestyle, information support for citizens and medical workers, based on results of continuous digital data processing, which significantly increases the efficiency through the use of modern methods of processing and analyzing data. And this will include, of course, artificial intelligence and other mathematical methods. And this group of technologies is based on, of course, technological and methodological solutions, and general concepts of e-health, which were discussed in the previous lectures. For example, when we were talking about hospital automation solutions and electronic health records. And of course, these solutions will be related to the telemedicine, electronic document management, and the related infrastructure to gather all this data in one place and to provide it to medical workers and patients. When we are talking about future of medicine, there is a very popular concept of 4P medicine. It consists of predictability, prevention, personalization, and participation for patients. And of course, all for these action points and ways of activity implementation and development could be based and are based on digital healthcare in general, and providing digital healthcare could achieve these goals. We can name, I guess, 4 main segments of digital medicine. It will be services provided for citizens, services provided for medical organizations, services for health authorities, and data management services. Let's name just main positions of these services which are provided for each of this group. For citizens, it will be personal electronic accounts, it will be targeted citizen connection and communications, and on the other hand, it could be non-targeted communications when we provide information for general public, and for example, it could be promotion of healthy lifestyle. Next service will be provision of technology for communication for large group of patients. For example, it could be social networks. Personal health monitoring and management. This service will be related in general to Internet of Things, which we will discuss later today. Of course, there will be sociological polls and quality of the service control or something like that. Information services, including technological solutions for prevention, diagnostics, and other financial transactions with citizens, remote medical services, patient identification and registration, maintaining of electronic medical records, medical decision support for medical professionals using artificial intelligence technologies, for example, providing medical care using telemedicine technologies. It's a main goal of our today topic. And complex of personal communications with medical workers, which could be done with different channels. It will be management and routing and logistics for patients. Activity planning, continuing education for health professionals, electronic prescriptions management, management of diagnostics. For health authorities, it will be central services management, personal management, supply chain management, handles events, notifications, regulation of and the registration, of course, of acts and civil status, for example, issuing birth and death certificates, health financing management, which will be related to for insurances, for example, and reimbursement. Equipment and assets management for health organization. And data services could be common for different part of these services, and it will be data management, data collection, data encoding using different classifiers, for example, information about geolocation and technologies and data gathering in communications and data exchange. Very important part of this will be related to the electronic document management in healthcare. It's a set of regulatory, technological, and methodological measures to ensure the maintenance of medical records in the form of electronic documents and records without duplication on paper. So our main goal here is to reduce paperwork and to make as much as possible in digital form in electronic documents. Each medical action will be resulting in electronic medical document, and we need to provide technologies and procedures for signing, storing these documents, and of course there are a lot of requirements for these documents, how they should be stored, how long they should be stored, and the safety is essential for the whole system of digital healthcare. In general, these documents are accessible through the medical information system of medical organization, which manage these activities during which these medical documents appear. And these documents are being signed with electronic signature by a doctor or other health professionals. Each new version of the document should be stored in database, and we could always track all the changes through these versions of documents. Storage of these documents should be none less than storage of the similar documents on paper. Let's look on the definitions for telemedicine. It's provision of health services in setting where distance is a critical factor for healthcare professionals, and the using of information and communication technologies to share information for the diagnostics, treatment and prevention of disease and injury, research and evaluation, and the continuing education of health professionals to improve public health and develop communities. And I guess this definition cover almost all activities inside healthcare which could be done on the distance. On the other hand, telemedicine technology is information technology providing remote interactions for medical workers among themselves, with patients, and or with their legal representative, identification and authentication of these persons, documentation of their actions during consultations themselves, monitoring of patients' health, and other. So this definitions cover almost all technical part of these interactions between medical workers, patients, and other medical workers, and all technological part of these interactions are being called telemedicine technologies. What could be types of telemedical interactions? It could be consultations between doctors with each other. For example, when we need consultation with a neuro specialists in one area for second opinion, for example. It could be consultations between doctors and medical workers. For example, it could be distant facility with no doctor at all and only nurses, and the doctor could connect with them and tell them instructions what to do in certain cases. Remote consultations with the patient, it's the most basic way of interactions in telemedical technologies, and of course remote monitoring for health. So, how the process in general looks like, and what are the requirements for telemedical consultations? During consultations, the attending physician may correct the treatment previously prescribed to the patient, provided that the attending physician establishes the diagnostics and prescribed treatment for the patient at the in-person appointment. So when we provide these telemedicine services, we be sure that this patient in his lifetime already attended his doctor in person. The attending physician who has appended remote monitoring of the patient's health status is obliged to provide an emergency response at the patient's location in case of a critical deviation of the patient's health status indicators from the limit values. Documentation of information about the consultation using telemedicine technologies, including entering information into medical records, is carried out using the enhanced qualified electronic signature. Materials received as a result of remote interactions are subject to storage. Documentation is subject to inclusion in the patient's electronic medical record of the medical information system of the consulting medical organization. Storage of documents is carried out with the terms provided for the storage of relevant primary medical documentation. A medical organization provides medical assistance using telemedicine technologies for the types of work services specified in the license for these medical activities. Medical organizations provide medical care. Medical organizations could use information systems which are being run on the higher level, for example, on the regional level or state level. Provision of medical care using telemedicine technologies is carried out by medical workers which are licensed to do these medical actions. The medical organizations provide the necessary premises, means of communication, and equipment for consultations. In order to identify and authenticate participants in the remote interaction, a unified system for authentication could be used if this system is in place in country. Consultations for medical organizations can be in real time, or it could be a delayed consultations. It's doesn't matter how it's provided. From the organizational perspective, work could be organized in several different ways. It could be just a workstation for a doctor who provide consultations. It could be telemedicine hospital at home when all required equipment located at home with the patient. It could be telemedicine office or so-called mini clinic when we have all necessary equipment in a certain place and it is being used to provide data transmission remotely to the doctor. It could be mobile telemedicine laboratory when we have all the required equipment to provide measurements of some laboratory-made indicators. So digital medical lab is an office in which a patient is examined using mobile devices, followed by the transfer of data from these devices to the doctor in digital form. Let's name what could be equipment for such a hospital at home facility. It could be a computer or tablet or smartphone with internet connection for direct communications with doctor. Blood pressure monitor, glucometer, mobile electronic thermometer, electronic scales, and measurements for other factors, urinary analyzer, mobile dermatoscope, document camera if we need to have a photocopy of some documents, electronic stethoscope, mobile electrocardiography, spirograph, mobile ultrasound, colposcope, otoscope, express blood analyzers. On this slide, we can see how this mobile telemedicine laboratory could be created. It could be based on a truck or a van, and how it is done, it's a question of where this mobile laboratory will operate. What do you need to reach your destination? This is a complex of workplaces and required equipment and technologies for communication with medical facility with internet connection. Now let's say a few words what we're gonna do with all this medical data which could be gathered when we have technology to access lots of patients and we have all the medical information in digital form. Of course, if we have digital information, it's possible for us to apply mathematical methods to analyze this information. And what does we mean under mathematical methods in medicine? It's a set of mathematical approaches used to obtain quantitative dependencies, build models of the patients, of different processes in healthcare, and to apply different algorithms on these calculations and data. For example, it could be graphic processing, equations, statistical methods, system analysis, and mathematical modeling, implementation of control theory methods, querying theory, game theory, decision theory, and other mathematical theories which are being applied in medical cybernetics in the last decades. And currently there are a lot of novel works applying artificial intelligence and using neural networks, for example, to make better results with mathematical methods. So, artificial intelligence is a set of technological solutions that allow simulating human cognitive functions, including self-learning and searching for solutions without a predetermined algorithm, and obtaining results when performing specific tasks that are at least comparable to the results of human intellectual activity. The complex of technological solutions includes information and communication infrastructure, software, including those that use machine learning methods, processes and services for data processing and finding solutions. Artificial intelligence technologies are technologies based on the use of artificial intelligence, including computer vision, natural language processing, speech recognition and synthesis, intelligent decision support, and advanced methods of artificial intelligence. Intelligent medical data processing is processing of medical data using artificial intelligence methods. How these methods and AI could improve our healthcare? Of course, they could affect the treatment process itself by providing some augmented methods in treatment. They could be used in security control, in creating and organizational means for medical management, improving operations in certain organizations, and providing sustainable development in this organization. They could be used in creating conditions for maximum accessibility and to reduce time of waiting for citizens. They could be used to provide information for citizens and reduce time, how long does it take till this information will be get. They could be used for development of internal cooperation and data exchange in medical organizations. The core of artificial intelligence in medicine are intelligent support for medical interventions, digital assistance to perform proper treatment, machine learning for prediction in medical manipulations, for example, deep learning for processing large amounts of biomedical data, image processing, natural language processing, sound recording and recognition in these recordings, intellectual processing of statistical data, big data analysis, predictive modeling. Talking more specific, in radiology, it could be used for automated quality control of performed studies by processing obtained images and providing second opinion by the system based on previous results stored in databases. In morphology and cytology, these systems could operate quite similar, analyzing images of cells and providing additional insights for medical doctors. In dermatology, it could be used for detection and classification of malignant neoplasms in skin cells. In ophthalmology, it could be used for detection and classification of eye disease, and it is also being done by processing diagnostic images. In the general practice, it could be used for decision support, gathering all symptoms of the patient and providing recommendations for the doctor. In cardiology, it could be used for computer-based pathology detection. In neurology, urology, surgery, and others, it could be used to detect complications and predict results of treatment. In anesthesiology, intensive care, and similar life-threatening medical facilities, it could be used for continuous monitoring of the status of the patients. In emergency care, these technologies could be used for transportation management, sorting, monitoring, prediction of the outcomes for patients, and in some cases for robotic execution of some manipulations when it's impossible to provide them by personnel. So, who will benefit from implementation of these digital technologies? For patients, it will be intelligent processing of medical records and information from wearable devices, predictive diagnostics, and early detection of the diseases. It's one of the P's from 4P medicine. Intelligent second opinion services. It's always possible to have a consultation from such a system. For medical stuff, it will be speech recognition, for medical documents completion, medical decision support systems, predictive analytics, and patient routings. Also, it will provide recognition and interpretation of results of instrumental studies. For healthcare system in general, it will result in risk-based assessment of activities for medical organization, accelerating the development and introduction of novel devices and technologies to the market, identification and making effective new methods for medical care. As a result, we'll have reduced amount of time required from healthcare workers to provide this medical support. It will affect the percentage of medical errors, improve quality of treatment, increase economic efficiency, and of course raise satisfaction for population in general from medical services. What should be done so these technologies will be possible to implement? Of course, it will require legal regulations and standardizations, and currently there is a huge work under developing standards for artificial intelligence technologies in healthcare. Data which is being processed in healthcare should be labeled, standardized, unified, so it will be possible to process it in artificial intelligence system. There should be a regulated access to the general domain of medical data, so it will be possible to train these algorithms on the depersonalized medical data received from various medical facilities. And we will need to create a marketplace for individual services provided in this area from different companies. These activities should be done in accordance with national healthcare challenges, so these solutions should be implemented in the most important areas for the country. And of course, it's very important that our healthcare professionals will be trained to use these systems, to not be afraid of them, because there are a lot of cases when doctors feel themselves threatened by such solutions. Talking about technical level, we are speaking of a huge infrastructure with different technological segments for data accumulation in different formats. It could be structured data in databases, it could be medical images, it could be unstructured natural language, audio recordings, and all this data must be segmented and divided in parts for processing, and this augmented data will be stored for a limited amount of time to train our algorithms, and after that we could provide solutions for general public to implement these algorithms on the systems which are being used to treat patients. And of course, we will have a lot of business intelligence instruments, statistical instruments in place, because in general, artificial intelligence are based on mathematics and statistics, and we need to analyze a lot of data before it could be done. After that, we will have AI tools for provision of technologies. It will be marketplace. We will have quality control for these solutions. These solutions will be standardized and ready to use in general public. Let's name some examples from our university, how these technologies are being implemented. Telemedical technologies are being studied in accordance to respiratory support systems at home. It was very important with relation to the novel coronavirus infection. Another implementation was related to the children with autism spectrum disorders support and monitoring. Another was a prospective comparative clinical study of remote monitoring for pregnant women at risk. Another was monitoring of students with correction of overweight. Another study was related to the patients with oral lithiasis, and next one for the patients receiving chemotherapy for oncological diseases. One of our projects is related with evidence-based medicine, processing thousands of medical articles in different areas and resulting in clinical recommendations and processed datasets of natural language in these articles. This procedure looks like that. We prepare datasets, provide models to analyze this data, then we assess which model is the best for required results and implement it in this system. It's based on publicly known models related to logistic regression, support vector machine, gradient boosting, k-nearest neighbors, random forest, decision trees, and others. Also, this technology could be used for drug interactions and introduction of neural networks facilitate us to find new facts of drug-drug interaction in different texts and to analyze if these interactions are listed in medical product leaflets and instructions for medical use. So as a result, we'll have lists of texts which could be related to drug interactions. Another project is related with pathomorphology. It's a roboscope for performing automated scanning of the glass slide and processing this information in DICOM format. This software allows to work with images and to mark the necessary fragments of this image. This system uses cloud storage of this data, so it could be processed in different locations. Another project is related to patient turnover and operating tables turnover. It allows to analyze video streams from operating rooms and detect which are ready for use and which are occupied, and implementation of such a system improve patient operating room management. And talking about all these solutions, we should name that all the introduction of Internet of Things and IT technologies in healthcare in general became possible only with miniaturization of these devices. So our previous decades allow us to pass from huge calculating rooms to compact gadgets which allow similar quantitative power on your lab. Nowadays, we can say that number of implementations of Internet of Things technology rise from day to day, and I guess we will be covered from all sides with smart devices gathering a lot of data about us and providing additional improvement in our everyday life. Talking about artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, we have such a pathway for data gathering, which could be managed to accumulate as an information source. After this information would be processed and altered to knowledge with data mining. We could apply artificial intelligence mathematical methods on this data to receive additional benefits from this data. Let's talk a little about definitions. The term Internet of Things was proposed a few decades ago, and it was related to identification of objects using RFID tags. And nowadays, this technology is still in place, and the name of Internet of Things became covering much wider amount of implementations. So in many cases we're talking not about just a microchip with antenna sending some signal, but it will be the whole device gathering data, analyzing data, and providing much more complicated and processed amount of information from this technological solution. In Wikipedia, we can find this definition of Internet of Things. It's a concept of computer network gathering physical devices equipped with built-in technologies for interacting with each other or with external environment, considering the organization of such network as a phenomenon capable of restricting economic and social processes, including the need for human participation, excluding the need for human participation from some of the actions and operations. So the goal of Internet of Things is to reduce work for humans to process data from different measurable devices, providing measurements, and to make this data being gathered without any additional processing. Internet of Things is being used for identification, measuring, communications, data processing, and all other implementations. Just a few words about general concept and its implementation. As you see on this slide, there is a lot of ways how Internet of Things is being implemented right now. It is in smart cities, industries, buildings, cars, energy. It's a lot of implementations, and healthcare is just a small part of this multi-billion market of Internet of Things devices. And talking about implementation for healthcare, it will be generally health trackers and wearable devices for patients and healthy people to monitor the health status and receive additional advices how to keep the health on the optimal level. And I guess it's the most common way how it's being used right now. In other different ways, it could be used in, for example, surveillance systems. When we receive data on persons who are detected that they fall on the ground and this intelligent surveillance system could analyze this visual data and send signal to the medical facility, so this patient will, citizen will receive help without need for person to monitor this video stream. There are a lot of implementations in retail, and going closer to our topic, to healthcare, you can name that the simplest way is barcodes scanning, and I guess all medical devices have ways for identification, and this identification could be joined with information management system, and we can use this to automate different processes. For example, we can detect if this patient is correct on the operation table, or is this drug correct for this patient, and so on. Let's get closer to healthcare implementation. In medicine and healthcare, the most important is that we are able to have compact electronic wearable devices to receive some measurements. On this screen we can see development of ultrasound scans, and right now we can talk that this equipment could be the size of a normal smartphone with similar results in accuracy. So the main trends and opportunities here are miniaturization, standard ways to identify different equipment, connection to the network, data exchange protocols with standardized formats, cloud storage of data, and so on. Medical Internet of Things devices could be separated in two major segments. It will be household appliances, and it could be used on demand by each person, and it will allow to improve some habits or receive additional information on person's healthcare and so on. And on the other hand, we have medical devices, which are professional tools, and these tools are commonly connected to the healthcare information systems in hospitals, and doctors receive information from these devices. In some sources we can find term Internet of Medical Things, and this term is related to the medical devices connected with network to receive medical data related to the patient. So implementation of such devices allow us to go from discrete survey of patients to continuous monitoring of the health status, and it is much more beneficial than the previous one, and it allows us to monitor dynamics of the patients. And to do so we need devices, of course, with they should be compact, they should have sensitive measurement tools on board, and of course software solutions to analyze received data, process it, and send it via network to the doctor, or at first to the storage facility. And connectivity here most commonly is Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or USB connection. These devices could communicate server or local computers, smartphones, laptops. Data could be stored in the cloud or on the server. And of course, this data should be available to the clients with some interfaces for data analytics. These devices could be used in different ways. It could be diagnostic tools, tonometer, urine analyzers, ultrasound machines, glucometers, thermometers, and other. They could be used in preventive healthcare to promote a healthy lifestyle, and it will be common fitness trackers, scales, and other. They could be used in therapeutics, for example, insulin pump, smart pill boxes, drug intake control, and other. And the rehabilitation, of course, there are different ways how these devices could be implemented. The most common ways of these devices being used in diagnostics is providing observation for general public in mobile clinic or mobile laboratory, and another way is some kind of wearable device, fitness tracker, smart tattoo, and others to measure some indicators. Devices could be separated by user groups for medical workers, for home appliances, and for professionals, for example, military, security personnel, firefighters, fighters, and others. In many cases, medical devices and Internet of Things devices could affect health of patients, and of course, in these cases, they should be registered as medical products and, of course, tested, and their work should be controlled. There are different ways how Internet of Things could be used in healthcare clinics. For example, it could be used for control of the patients and doctor's location or equipment location, tracking of medical products, and there are a lot of implementations how we could improve control in healthcare. Another implementation will be provision of services themselves. It will be different video devices and specific medical tools. In security, these technologies could be used for monitoring of hospital status, equipment, staff, patients, conditions, and other. Let's take a look on one of the examples. It's a blood pressure measurement tool, and now we're looking on first version of this digital blood pressure measurement tool. It is quite sophisticated. It have active display, high accuracy. It works in real time. There are some memory cells in it and other features that are very interesting, and this device is quite good itself. On the next stage, we have similar device with additional capabilities for storage, for data display. It could be connected with external data analytics platform and transmit data from its memory for additional analysis. And the device, which could be named Internet of Things device, it is data transmitter, which is always connected with online service, providing data, and there are several additional benefits in this device. For example, color display, additional detection functions, additional functions to measure results, and so on. Another example will be cardio recorder, which is connected with smartphone by Bluetooth and provide all the measurements which could be sent to the doctor for decision making. And this automation is quite beneficial for the patients. And the implementation of such tools are a good example of personalized medicine when we were talking about the ways how medicine will be improved. Personalization was one of the options. Another example is climate control tool, which receive information not only about temperature, humidity, and others, but could analyze different gases in air and provide additional warnings if it should be changed and you need to add some fresh air, for example. One of the next problem in 4P medicine is prevention of the diseases, and early diagnostics is a good way how it could be done, and organization of observation for huge populations is quite challenging, and telemedicine and Internet of Things devices could really help us here. And of course, first of all, we need to make our patients being interested in this process. And one way how it could be done is provide all the results in digital form on some kind of website or in mobile applications. So all the examinations will be visible for the patient. Of course, we will need to have all the necessary measurement devices in place. It will be smart scales to measure body mass and height of the patient. Another device will be related to blood pressure, pulse. Such a device could be used to provide results with a huge line of patients, and it works really fast and do not require additional medical personnel for assistance. And it's very good for screening. Portable biochemical express analyzer could be used also in observations and monitoring or in emergency rooms in hospitals when it's impossible to use stationary analyzing facilities. It could be used to check cholesterol, glucose, lipoproteins, ketones, creatine, and other blood tests. This device, for example, could be connected with a personal computer and laboratory information management systems with different ports and send data. It's a more stationary realization of this device. Electrocardiograph receives signals from standard assignments, registering data, and its reliability is very high, and it could be used in general practice. Another example is a stress testing device, and it's also quite similar with a common device which being used in hospital, and the only difference is that it store data in information system and could send it with network. Digital fluorography could be also done mobilely, and information received in this system could be instantly seen by doctors, and it allow us not to make patients wait for the results and to provide information as fast as possible. So all these solutions save time for patients and their employees, so employers. Such observations could be done on the working places without distraction for the patients. It allows us to cover greater population and territories, and it will provide additional results in general public healthcare. Let's cover some opportunities for application in pharmaceutical technologies. Of course, it is related to industry application. In general, there will be lots of types of measurement devices on chemical plants and pharmaceutical plants, gathering data and controlling how this manufacturer is working, and controlling processes, personnel, and in some cases this information could be used to automatically shut down the plant in cases of some situations which will require emergency actions. In more usual environment, we could find digital technologies and Internet of Things technologies in pharmacies for medical facilities for tracking of medical products. It could be done with barcodes or RFID labels, and tracking of packages of medicines is one of the simplest ways to control falsified medical products to be out of stock and not to be introduced into the public circulation. And in medical organizations, we could use labeling to control logistics of medical products to the patients, and it is another way to check if our patients receive required medical products according to the prescriptions. After that, all this data could be accumulated and analyzed for medical products provision and procurement, and to optimize supply chains. And this is also very beneficial to have this information in one place for healthcare system managers. From another point of view, it is quite beneficial for compliance, and in pharmaceuticals it is very important to keep all the processes in place. And for example, Internet of Things devices could be used to monitor conditions for medical product storage, and for example, temperature of the storage. And in some products, it is crucial that on all stages during the all supply line, the temperature will be below a certain level, and it could be controlled with addition of such a Internet of Things device to the package of the medical product. Another application more related to the medical use of pharmaceutical products is smart pills. These is a smart pill box, for example, which control if the medicine was taken, and it will additionally alarm patient in time of medical products intake, and they could be different in design, and they could control time of intake, and you in some solutions you can connect this drug pill box with information system and submit information to your doctor, and it is very useful in cases of elderly, when it is very often when patients forgot to take their pills, and it's it have very serious results on their health status. Another implementation of smart pills are really different type of pills, and they could be adjusted with some measurement devices, and adding such a measuring device to the pill could provide us with additional data from the patient, and this information could be quite important for the treatment of this patient. And of course, smart wearable devices are also in place here. We could use them to monitor health status of the patient, and it will be an indication for pills intake, and this process could be automated. For example, according to some measurements, you can adjust amount of medicine being taken, and it is very important because in medicines it's not good when you take too much of them or not enough of them. You should keep the optimal amount of medicine in bloodstream. One of the important parts of development for medical products is related to clinical trials, and during these trials it is very important also to keep track on the patients and to receive all the changes in health status of these patients taking experimental drugs, and to warn pharmaceutical company instantly if something will go wrong, and additional assistance will be needed. Also, these technologies help to evaluate the results of medical products processing in the patient's body, and to receive additional information related to this study. Let's name just a few practical applications for such a device. One of them will be in control of health status for professions, when from the actions of one person a lot of lives depending. For example, it could be measurement of condition for drivers. It could measure if it is feeling well, he's feeling well, or maybe if he fall asleep, and this device could make required warnings to change the situation from critical. Of course, we named a lot of implementations in health management, lifestyle improvements, in sports. There are a lot of implementation in monitoring of health condition. Another implementation will be related with sleep monitoring and analysis. And next one is related with sports training measurement and adjusting how this training is being done. Of course, there is a lot of implementation in smart scales to manage body weight. This is body temperature measurement device. This is blood sugar measurement. Non-invasive glucometers are also very interesting for patients. Some devices combine different measurements in one device, producing complex information for the doctor. Blood chemistry analyzer, urine analyzer, heartbeat control monitor connected with network. Smart monitoring devices for blood pressure, heart monitoring, also in mobile package and connectivity with external devices. Ultrasound devices for self-examination, for example, in conditions when it's impossible to receive this service from doctor. This is once again urine analyzer, more specific implementations of fitness trackers, receiving information about heart rate, amount of physical activities, and other measurements. Thermometers to measure temperature of the body for the patients. Smart scales in another appliance. Blood pressure monitoring. Smart mug to detect amount of fluid taken by the patient in chronic kidney diseases. And I guess we talk a lot about what are the benefits from these technologies, and let's name a few risks which we can find here. Of course, one of the major problems is insufficient Wi-Fi coverage. There are a lot of situations when we became out of network, and it's okay if our mobile phone doesn't work, but if it is some medical device and you have life-threatening condition required monitoring, you will be related, you will rely on this connectivity, and it is quite risky if you will be out of coverage. There are a huge question about how to check medical devices which are not provided by medical organization, but which are in the individual use by the patient, because all medical devices go through regular checkups, and we need to be sure that they measure correctly, work correctly, and up to date. And in case of personal devices, there are no process of this medical devices control or some tests for them. There could be risks related to the security. There were several cases when security breaches affect health status of the patients using such devices, and in some cases it's impossible to update security software from security sites on these devices, and it could make a serious threat to the public healthcare in such conditions. In some cases, these devices which are used in healthcare are provided by non-healthcare companies, and they do not use healthcare data exchange standards, and these devices is hard to connect to the general system of healthcare. In many cases, we need additional experience in this area as for doctors and for patients to use these devices efficiently. And of course, not all users want to wear some device sending information to the network about their well-being, and this resistance also always will be in place, and we need to think how to manage this situation. So, most important problems right now are lack of unification in Internet of Things and telemedical services. It's insufficient process organization for provision of these devices, solutions, services, and possible problems with security. Thank you very much. For now, it's all. See you next time.